Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Our topic today has to do with one of our products called Spreadsheet Link, and it will be on a couple of workflows geared towards the structural building environment and our structural engineers who love to have their hands on their spreadsheets. And really, it's not so much loving their spreadsheets. There's a big affinity for the data, right? And Revit has tons and tons of data in it, but we don't have access to all of it, right? And a huge drawback is that we can't actually use Excel natively in Revit, right? We get a schedule, can't do much with the schedule except report stuff, a couple basic formulas, right? And so today we're going to focus our efforts on how we can take Excel data, the formulas behind the data, and update our Revit models with that data, right? And how we can take that and manipulate the documentation. We can manipulate the model with that data. And whether it's, just taking information from Revit to Excel and keeping it there, or in this case, taking the data from Revit to Excel, put a bunch of formulas in it, run a bunch of calcs, get what we need from that, and then push it back into Revit and update the models. So this webinar is going to show a couple of different examples on how we can do that using Spreadsheet Link, and I'll show you what some of the formulas are so that they can be reused again. And we'll try to create a repeatable workflow for one of these. So today, I'm going to show you how to manipulate some data in Spreadsheet Link and how to push that back into the Revit files, and teach you what some of the different formulas that are used in Excel for this data manipulation. And then how can we create a template? Like, how can we do this again on multiple projects, right? So those are the kind of the three key areas that we're going to focus on today. And because this needs to be shown, we're going to show you live. We're not going to do a death by PowerPoint today. So with that being said, we're just going to jump right into the Revit model here. And so I've got just our simple office building. You've probably seen it with other webinars of ours. In this case, this is the structural model for this. And we're going to do two things today. The first one we're going to focus on is just a simple formula to change up some taggable data. So oftentimes, in the earlier stages of the design, we don't really know what size members we're using. We have an idea, but we don't know all the specifics, right? And when you insert components into Revit, it's that, right? And it has all of that data in it. Well, I may not be 100% certain that we're using a W21 by 50 here. It might be a 21 by 68 or some other size, or maybe something completely different, right? So we won't know that until I get the engineering data back. So, and it's been fully resized and everything. So all I want to do is showcase the fact that for right now, we're speccing out a W21, not the 21 by 50. So what we can do, and now what we can do in Revit is we can manually change up the parameters for this. And you're not going to rename the type, which is what most of the tags are based on. What you would do is find another parameter that you guys are never using. So like maybe comments is one that you guys don't use, or description is one, or maybe you make your own project or shared parameter, bring it in and take advantage of that. In this case, I made a custom tag, but I just used the description parameter. And what I'm getting at is we would normally just type in, say, like a W21 in the properties here. And then when I go to tag it, that's what I get, right? And I want to do that for all my shapes. Now, this is a small project, so I don't have a lot of different shapes in reference here, but what if it was a large job and you were thinking there might be, 25 different types or maybe more, right? So, and various families in use instead of just wide flanges across the board. It'd be really slick if we had a process that we could run that would take a few seconds to update all that for us. And at the end of this example, you will have that process that takes a few seconds and does everything for you. We got to build it first, though. So what we're going to do is go through the steps to build the spreadsheet workflow, make it a repeatable process so that you can use it again on the next project. So we're going to fire up Spreadsheet Link right out of the gate, and it's going to go like this. So we're going to go ahead and pull in the structural framing category here. And I need two values for this to work. I need the family type, right? So the W21 by 50 field. And then I want to use the field that we're going to use to show the renamed data. You can see it's kind of popping up here in the background. So I'll pull this off to the side so you can see it. Second one I want to use, in this case, I'm just going to use description, right? So you can see the one change has already been applied. I'm going to go ahead and write a formula to do the rest. So, and when you add those two fields, since we're using a formula, Spreadsheet Link has a function in here for calculations. We have a little checkbox here. And what this does is if this box is checked and a cell gets a formula entered, that will automatically take that formula and copy it all the way down the line for all the different cells that are available in this column so that you don't have to do that yourself. You could, and that's fine, but this checkbox does it for you so that if there are, on the next project, if there are 500 beams or framing components instead of the 100 that are here today, it would accommodate and apply the formula to all 500. So you don't have to worry about adjusting the limits of this moving forward, or trying to make sure that you accommodate all conditions, right? It'll just do it. So now that I've got those two set, I can come into Spreadsheet Link, preview here, and at this point, I have two options. One, I can just do the formula entering here in this preview window. It's almost a fully functioning Excel setup. There's some limitations here, but with the formulas we're going to show today, you could do it here. Or you could save this out to Excel and do all your editing there. So, which I will do in the next example, but for right now, we're just going to do it right here. So with this cell highlighted, I'm going to go into my formula row, and we're going to type in the formula that is needed to do this. And what we're going to tell the formula to do is in the type column, or column C, we want to grab everything to the left of X and paste it into column D. That's effectively what we're telling this formula to do, okay? So it looks a lot more complicated than it is, but if you know anything about Excel, you know that all the formulas are much more complicated look-wise than they are actually for what they have to do. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and type it out. And here we're looking for stuff in column C. I already made a mistake. C. In this case, I'm doing a specific C4 cell. And then we're saying in the left side of C4, find everything to the left of the X, basically. And keep on, oops, I screwed up again. Keep typing. Oops. Now, if you're like me and you're not the greatest typer in it, that's understandable. I'm not very good at this keyboard stuff. However, it's very particular, right? So if you make a mistake while you're doing this, it's going to tell you, and I will likely make a mistake. And for those of you that are following along and want to use this again, I have included, or I have available upon request, all of the formulas in a Word doc that you guys can have access to. All you have to do is let us know, and it's all yours. So, and in the second part of the formula here that you see, in case you're wondering what the heck I'm typing, this has to do with K-series joists that if they are used in the project, we want a similar outcome to happen there, except we want it to include the K in the formula. So, and that's what I'm doing here is after that, I'm including a secondary if-then statement that takes care of anything that's a bar joist. So, so with the framing, wide flange components, we don't want the X, but for bar joist, we do want the X. So that's what this formula is saying here. Now, if I didn't screw this up, yep, of course I did. So, but so this is where, Excel can be fun, and now we get to go back and try to figure out what I did wrong. And instead of doing that, I'm just going to paste the formula in from the Word doc that you can have, and here it is. Now it's working. So, and you can see, it took the type name of the families, W21, and pasted it over there. So everything to the left of the X. Then if you scroll down, we have a couple bar joists listed here. Some down here. There they are. And it took everything to the left, or it took everything from the K over to the left. So it's including the character this time. And that's it. Right? So now at this point, I can apply this back to the model right now. So if I go ahead and hit apply, and active worksheet, in this case, I've only got the one using, and hit yes, it's going to take all that data, push it into Revit, and make the update for me. So now it's telling me it's only updated 5 elements and left the other 251 alone. Well, shouldn't it say 256 were updated? Well, yes and no. So really, it did update everything. Since the description was a type property, our app found the 5 unique types, and it's recording those as the ones being changed. The rest are being changed organically because they're all part of the same type. So I'll show you. So I'll hit close. It did do its thing. It worked. That's actually what you want it to say in this case, because everything was a type property. So before I close this up entirely, though, I'm going to save this. And the reason why I want to save this is because we want settings to be able to do this again. SD framing tag, oops. We're just going to call it SD framing tag description and save it. Okay, so now I've got those saved. I can close this. And now to see if everything did actually get changed, I'm going to just do a tag all. So tag all, we'll grab our framing tag and hit OK. And sure enough, it did it. It truncated everything the way I wanted. It did the bar joists as well. And it actually did more than just this view. I can switch to level 3, do my tag all here. And same thing. It updated the entire project. Any framing component that was a bar joist or a wide flange now has the update applied. So that part worked. Now, the second part to that is the repeatable process, right? So I'm going to quick undo these things real quick. And I'm going to show you now how to do that quickly. Say, pretend this is job 2, right? So I saved that as a settings file before I loaded it in, right? Or before I closed it out. What that allows me to do is load that up and apply the formula back to the model without ever seeing that big Spreadsheet Link window. And that's using a different app called Spreadsheet Link Express. So what I can do now is I can launch Spreadsheet Link Express and load up my settings. So I can hit browse, go find the file that we just saved, hit open, and then apply. And now in the background, Spreadsheet Link Express is using Spreadsheet Link, opening up that settings file, loading everything up, and pushing it back to the model. And you can see I got the similar message. This time it says 6 though, and that's because I undid everything and pushed it all back, right? So here, it should have done all of them this time. And to be certain, I'll do my tag all again. And there we have it. It did it again. Exactly what we told it to do using the formula that we had implemented into the spreadsheet file. And now, here we are. So that's part one. Very, very kind of quick, easy, kind of shows you some of the capabilities that we're looking to accomplish here. You know, highlights a formula that we can use that's not, you know, your simple sum or divide type of, you know, formula. A little bit more in depth. Now, this next one is quite in depth. But it's still pretty cool none the least. So that's why I want to show you. And within this particular example, there's a number of formulas that can be used elsewhere for other tasks if you wanted to expand upon this in the future. So just to kind of give you a little backstory on this one, what we're trying to do here is resize our footings based on a sizing spreadsheet that I've used and that people sometimes use to figure out based off the pressure in the concrete and the weight that needs to support and all that good stuff. Do the calculation to go ahead and tell us how big that footing needs to be, and in my case, what type of footing I need to use, right? So I've got a spreadsheet that I've made. This one's very generic, but it does the trick for this example to size my footings. So based off a bearing pressure, in this case of 3,000 pounds per square foot. And I've got at each grid location, I've got it entered in what the load needs to be, and then based off the maths, it tells me what size footing I need to have for this. So I need to take this number here, my footing type mark, and get that into my Revit model so that instead of F4 everywhere, I can now get 5, 6, 7s, 8s, depending on what it's telling, what I need, right? So, and we're going to start again by extracting that data from Revit, entering in all our formulas, and then pushing that back into the model and watching it update. So there are a number of different things we need to do for this to work. And part of it is based on a Revit limitation and parameters available at the moment. So I need to open up 2 categories in this case. First one is my structural foundations, because we are working with footings, right? And in my footings, I need to grab 4 values here. I need to get the family and the family and type, because what that gives me is the name and the type name. And then I need to get its XY coordinates. So I need to get position X and position Y. And the reason I need to do this is because I can't get the column grid intersection here. Like, there's no grid intersection property available, right? So what we're going to do is take the coordinates, XY coordinates from the footing, map that to the XY coordinates of the column, and then grab the column's grid location value and apply that to the footing, and then pull in our data for the formula, and away we go. Okay. So because I need to reference the column in this exercise, we got to pull the column in, and what I need to grab from the column specifically are the column location mark parameter, as well as the position X and Y, because that's how I'm going to link these two items together. So it'll look a little like this. I've got my foundations tab here. I've got my columns tab here. And before I get ahead of myself, I do need to go to the foundations and check the calculation box on family and type. Well, I suppose I don't need to do that because we're actually going to save this out. But it wouldn't be a bad idea just to make sure that we're not missing anything. But actually, in this case, what I'm going to do right now, because there's a number of formulas we're entering, and I'm going to save this to Excel, and I'm going to call it Revit footing size update. And then I'm going to open it in Excel. All right, so here we go. I'm actually going to clean this up so I don't confuse myself and close my last example. All right, so the first step today with this is to get just I want to get X and Y into a smaller, more easier to manage number. And the reason why I want to do that is because sometimes the X, Y coordinate numbers that you see here, because we're getting to such, we're going to the nth degree on these values, they sometimes will be a little off from here. The precision may be off by a billionth of a foot. So I want to truncate this down to show me just 4 or 5 or 6 characters, depending on how precise you want it to be, right? It's going to be right. So in this case, what I want to do is write a formula that merges these two columns of data into one cell. And then I'm going to match that cell to a column of data from the structural columns tab doing the exact same thing. Okay, so this formula is going to combine data into one cell. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just copy paste it in here now. So all formulas start with equals, and in this case, I'm doing to the a left specific cell merged type together, right? So take data from the left here and then the left here and enter. And now I've got two numbers, 28.24 and 46.51. And those were called from specific cell and gave me 5 characters. And I did that for each one. Okay. Then, now what I want to do is I need to apply that to every single footing in this list. So I can actually just double click the dot there, and that automatically copies that down. You can press and drag it down if you wanted. The copy works too. And just to be safe, I'm going to pull that up as well. It doesn't matter because I don't have anything there. But if they were normal pad footings, you'd want it all the way to the top. So, so that's part 1 of this step. Part 2 of this step is to do the exact same thing, but to my, to the columns. Got the formula in here, but I need to tweak it because we're in different cells here. So instead of, so in this case, instead of E10, I'm in D4. So I need to delete that and pick D4, and then delete F10 and pick F4, and then hit enter. And now I get the values correctly. And now I can double click that. Double click that. Okay, it doesn't want to double click today for some reason. So I'm just going to drag it down. That's fine. But either way works. Most of us are probably familiar with the whole dragging copy like this. But either way, regardless, it's doing its job. It's giving me the right numbers. It's updating the cells effectively. Step 2 now is to come back to the Foundations tab. And now what I need to do is match this column number to this column's number. And when you find the match, grab this column's grid mark and paste it into this column, right? So that's not that bad of a workflow, or a formula, I should say, but you know, it's a little bit longer, and it's a little bit more in depth because now we're referencing data on different tabs, right? So in this case, I'm using an index formula, so I'm saying index the columns tab, the structural columns tab, in column C, right? This means all of column C match from structural foundations, you know, in this case G10, with a number in the structural columns tab anywhere in column G, and find that and return it, right? So if I hit enter now, I should get a grid intersection, and I do, and it says E2. So if I want, I can go look and verify that. So we got 28.24 and 46.51. Or I can just look for E2 and make sure that that's what that is. So if we go find E2, which was down here, and it's right here. And we've got 28.42 and 46.51. That was the same number. So it returned it. Perfect. So now I want that for all of them. And my double click's not happy today. So we'll drag it down again. And here we go. Most of them worked. I do have a couple that didn't. And these did not work because there is no column above these footings to pull the data from. I verified that myself. There is no column there. So the data didn't match. So it's going to error on me in Excel. That's okay for this. It's not going to do anything when I push it to Revit. These footings just will remain. They can't be updated. So we're okay. So now step 2 is complete. Now we need step 3. Step 3 is taking what I've got now for my column location mark and figuring out what size column it needs to be. And that now needs to happen by referencing an outside spreadsheet altogether and match those together to give me a new value here. Okay, and this one is, we're going to use a VLOOKUP. Okay, and what I'm going to do is the formula will be a VLOOKUP to this spreadsheet, my foundation sizing table, and it's going to compare, you know, in this case it'll find E2, boom, and it should return an F5 in this case for that first one. Okay, so that formula itself is going to look like this. And again, I am just copying and pasting to make it easier, and so that I don't accidentally miss a comma or an apostrophe somewhere. But to explain what it's doing, we're going to do a VLOOKUP from column I, or in this case specifically I10, and go find my sizing table. In this case, I just saved it to C temp. So C temp structural foundation table, sheet 1, and then in the range of column A through column D, and you know, the whole sheet basically, specifically column 4. And if it's true, do it. If it's not, throw an error. So now, as you're building this out, you know, if you're doing it live and you don't know the file path exactly, but you've got the sheet open, what it will do is it'll show you a truncated version of this. So I'll just show you what I mean. So as you're building this out and setting it up, it's going to look something like this. And well, it didn't like that. So, but what it'll look like, I can show you right now, is instead of it being the entire file path, it's gonna be this, right? And that means the file's open right now as you're doing this, and it's pulling still from the same spreadsheet, sheet 1, through the range of A through D, but in column 4, right? So that's what it's doing, okay? Now I'm gonna go ahead and just paste the whole thing back in. And it returned F5. You can see, because I have it open, it's auto truncated for me. But that's right. That's what I was looking for, was F5. So now if I copy these down the line, some worked, some did not. And that's okay. But I probably messed with my sizing tables, it looks like. So, oops, where'd my spreadsheet go? Yep, I did. So now what's happened here is, before I got a chance to finish this off, someone messed with my Revit model and changed up some grid locations. Okay, so now in an effort to fix that, I can either go back to the spreadsheet or go back to Revit, verify what's going wrong here. All right, so if I do this, and go to my plan view again, and yep, the grids are different this way. So I've got a whole bunch of incorrect information here. And then, so error A. But this way now, that means, that shows me someone didn't update the models correctly, right? We were supposed to change the grids. We shifted things around. There used to be a grid 1 out here. We cut that part off. We need to rename this, right? Didn't happen yet. So I'm ahead of the game a little bit here. But in an effort to make sure that it still works, I still have some stuff that needs to change. So we can still do this, and we can still save this so that when the file gets updated, we can do that part. So what I'm going to do now is the last and final piece to this. Okay, the last step here is to take this value and give me a new family type. So right now everything's an F4. Well, now I need that to be an F5 or an F6 or stay in F4. Or some of these other ones are actually going to be F7s and F8s. So I am going, the formula in this case is pretty straightforward. So what I need to do is select this cell, and the formula is just this. Right? So combine, oh, where's my equals button? I need C10 plus the first part of D, right, footing rectangular, plus the type from K10 to give me, footing rectangular F5. And it did it. Right? So now we've combined 2 columns of data to update the family type. And now I can apply that down the row. If there's an update for it, it'll do it. If it's broken, it'll throw the not available. That doesn't mean it's going to break anything in Revit. It's just not going to change those. Right? So now once I fix my problem, we can come back, run this again, get the updates, and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to now save this spreadsheet. I'm going to jump back to Revit, and I'm going to switch back to my 3D view here. I've got columns changing right back here. So I'm going to focus in on this area so that you guys can see a couple of these columns here are going to change. We're going to open up Spreadsheet Link. I'm going to go straight back to the preview tab and I'm going to hit open on that spreadsheet. It pulls it up. It shows everything, all the work that we did. It shows the changes that are being made. And now I can apply. It changed 9. Okay, so it actually made a change. I can hit close on all this. And you should be able to tell. Here's my F4. I'll go to properties real quick. But now here's my F6. It did change these footings. It did change these footings. So it did do its thing. Now that I know my resizer works, I can go back to the model, update my grids, renumber them because someone forgot to do that, and we'll be done. All is well. So, and we'll just effectively be able to go through the process again with how I've set it up as is. To get it to be a repeatable process, it's doable. It's a little bit more complicated, but basically what you try to do and is merge all of the formulas that we've done so far for this into one formula. So it would look a little something like this. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to pull over the Word doc here. It would look something like this. So take the family name and then do a lookup of all of these things, do the column match, and do the left rename and from spreadsheets and from sizing tables. That's the whole gambit, right? And then do it all there at once. So it's kind of a mess. And actually, if you could, there's other ways to write this formula depending on your knowledge in Excel. So you might be able to find a more efficient way than I to write this. So there's your challenge. Go ahead and do that. And then you can make that your repeatable process, link it through Spreadsheet Link, and away you go. So, and with that, that concludes our presentation for today. I wanted to thank you all for joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you're at. Since this tool was part of the BIM project suite, you can go to our website and look up ctcsoftware.com, go to our products page, and you can download a trial of BIM project suite. It's good for 14 days, and you get access to all of these tools for those 14 days. And then after the trial runs out, you get the free tools over here on the left, the light green tools, and those are good forever. So, and then if you have any questions about this, please let us know. You can reach us out on our website. There should be a chat button there, or otherwise you can email us at feedback@ctcsoftware.com. And we'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions, or whether it was with this webinar, if you want some details on this webinar, or if you just have anything else. Again, thank you for your time and have a great day.